Hello everyone. Welcome to Upptalk channel. In this tutorial video, we are going to discuss Ginger automation. Before we start the video, let's know about Upptalk. Upptalk is a live, interactive platform for software training, furnishing robust personalities who could take on universal business platforms. Let's know about Ginger automation. Ginger automation is an AI-powered software that helps businesses automate their workflows and processes. It uses natural language processing, NLP, to understand user intent and automate tasks accordingly. The topics we will cover in this video are: creating a new solution, resources, environments, business flows, creating directory in business flows, variables, document folder structure and names, creating a customer. To know more about the latest and trending technologies, watch other videos on the Upptalk channel. Please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel to know more about new technologies. This video will be covered by Pratik.
We'll just go again to this deck and we'll just understand that these are the different ginger entities. Okay, so one is the business flow. We have already discussed business flows, activities, then we have actions, okay, variables, and the shared repositories. And all of this you can see is like a small planets. These are all the part of the solar system, which is nothing but our solution. Okay, so solution have all these entities in it called business flows, activities, actions, variables, and shared repositories. So let's try to understand each one of them in detail. Okay, like what actually these are the basic elements in Ginger. So first comes the solution. Okay, so solution is nothing but the logical structure, okay, which is a complete automation package in itself. Okay, so a logical structure basically we can say which contains all the project related files, whether maybe it's an agent files, environment files, okay, all the files will be there in a complete logical structure, which we will call it as solution. Okay, then comes the business flows or the end-to-end logical flow. So this we have already discussed. An end-to-end logical flow can have multiple target applications, right? Like your data can start flowing from web to Windows, from Windows to mobile, from mobile to Unix, and so on and so forth. Okay, so here we have a business flow which is nothing but an end-to-end logical flow. So maybe in your project you create a customer and the whole customer journey is your end-to-end business flow, end-to-end logical flow. Okay, that's why we called it as a business flow, because it's an end-to-end flow, which this business flow contains three sub things. Okay, that are the activities, the actions, and the variables. Okay, so these things we need to be very clear that the activities are nothing but a group of actions. Okay, because we cannot have a business flow with lot of actions, so therefore we divided them into activities, which are nothing but a group of actions. Okay, these group of actions are required to address a particular functional requirement. Okay, like suppose login. Login is a group of actions which we call it as an activity. Okay, which is used to address a particular functional requirement. Okay, like adding a beneficiary for payment. Okay, this can be an activity because this is a small kind of end-to-end flow or a small group of actions, okay, which is used to suffice a functional requirement, that yes, it's a small functional requirement that we need to add a beneficiary. So these are the different activities like login, like create payment, like make a payment. These can be the activities which are nothing but group of actions. Now each activity have different actions. Okay, so nothing, the actions are nothing but the steps. Okay, to perform any specific operation, you need to write a step, and that step is nothing but your action. And the variables are nothing to parameterize your inputs. You need to store them into a variable so that that variable value can be updated at any moment. Okay, so let's suppose the user id. The user id is a variable you want to use. You don't want to hard code anything inside your code. By hard coding means you put directly that value. Instead of that, we will put it into a variable so that that variable will be used at all the places, not the hard coded value. We should not use any hard coded value, because if you are hard coding something, you need to change it at every place. Instead of that, if you put it into a variable, you just update the variable, and that variable value will automatically get updated in all the places. Okay, so this is the point we will be using the page object model. Okay, like for writing the XPath and all the locators as well as the values, we will be storing that as part of a page object model, so that we update at one place, it will automatically get reflected at all the places. Okay, we'll discuss about what are the different types of variables, because we have global variable. The global variable has a scope for all the solution level. Okay, we can have the activity variable, which are only at the activity level. Action, all the variables we will discuss in detail. Then comes the another entity, the basic element called agents. So agents are nothing but the platform. You have configured yesterday one agent for the web browser. We can use this agent to run our scripts on different browsers. Okay, so agent configuration is important. Then comes the environment variables. We will see today how to configure an environment. What are the environment variables? These are nothing but the global parameters. Okay, so if you have an environment with a particular URL, another environment can have different URL. Okay, so we need to think in that perspective, that as we change the environment, the URL will be changing. Okay, so we need to parameterize our script so that we need to pass environment parameters as URL, because the scripts will be same, test cases will be same, just the environment will be different, and that environment should have a different URL. So how you will handle that? Because as the environment changes, URL changes. Number of test cases are same, running on different environment is a different thing. So that's why we have to pass them as an environment parameter, so that changing the environment when changing the URL will change the URL, and similarly all the variables what is required for that particular environment. Okay, so that are called global parameters. Then we have shared repositories. So I already discussed, it's a certain set of activities, actions or variables to enable reusability. The same code, line of code, we will be reusing it for different activities, for different actions, for different variables as well. So that is for shared repositories used. Okay, it is very unique functionality, which by which we can easily reuse the same line of code or same activity and actions. Okay, then the documents folder. This is very important folder, because as we talk about data driven approach, we may need to pass our data from Excel, from JSON or any other tool. Okay, so for that purpose we have our VBS scripts. Okay, so you need to just use those VBS scripts and get from the documents all the details, whatever actually you want. Because whenever you prepare a test data or you are running a flow, you definitely will require certain amount of data. Okay, like yesterday I mentioned you are creating a customer with a geographical location of Manila, let's suppose. So you need to pass the address, street 1, street 2, then city, zip code, country. Okay, all these details from where you can pass from Excel, or you can pass from JSON or any text file. Okay, because you want to provide that flexibility to user, that he can update in the Excel and all the scripts will run with that particular amount of data. Okay, So for that purpose, we have this documents folder in which we will be keeping our data like Excel and all, where exactly we need to discuss. Then we have run sets. Okay, so we will discuss about it. As you can remember, we have different tabs: business flow tab, run set tab, agents tab, environment tabs in Ginger. Okay, so this run set is nothing but it consists of list of end-to-end flows you want to execute. So once you will start with creating one end-to-end flow, you have to configure different activities inside that. Each activity will have action. So this become a complete end-to-end flow. Okay, now such end-to-end flows will be different for you. Let's suppose you have 5 end-to-end flows. Okay, and you want to run all the 5 business flows in one go, because from the automate and the business flow tab we can run only one business flow at a time, but you want to run now 5 business flows at a time. Think more in terms of granularity, that if you want to move more go inside a one business flow, you have to run from business flow or automate tab. But if you want to run all the 5 end-to-end flows together, you can prepare a run set. Okay, so run set is nothing but the set of business flows you want to run as part of one execution. On one click only, all the 5 end-to-end flows will be executed, something like this. Okay, so that we can achieve via run set. So these are all the different things, and for sure the execution results, where execution, where actually we can see the execution results, what is going to, what is executed, how much time it took, and at what time it executed, at what time it finishes, what are the screenshots, what are the details, logs, and everything we can see in the execution results. Okay, so just a quick recap what we have done till now, and now we will do some practical operate things. Okay, so I will be moving to Ginger. Okay, and let's see. Okay, we will try to create our a new solution. Okay, because we will be recapping what we have done. So now I will suggest you, you can keep practicing this again and again. Okay, like how to create a solution, how to map to a target application platform. Okay, how to configure an agent, how to create a new business flow, how to add the activities, how to add the actions, how many types of actions we have. This should be very clear, and if you want to, if you will go again and again, then only you will get good practice. Okay, so we'll discuss about this, what actually, how actually we will be doing it. So here, if you go and create a new solution, let me create a new solution. Okay, and let's suppose I give this solution name as test project. Okay, because now we will be building some project. Okay, so I just named it as the solution name as test project. I need to provide a location where exactly I want to do it. So let's suppose there is a directory called Ginger projects on me. Okay, so I put that location, that okay, in at this location my solution should be created. Solution is nothing but it contains all the project related files. Okay, then I need to select a main target application. Let's suppose I am selecting web as my target application, and my main application platform will be web. Then I click on the create button. Okay, so once I click on the create button, I can see my solution is created successfully. Okay, so once that project is created, what we will do is we will check the backend. Okay, in the backend, how many folders or files are created. So if you go here, this arrow button at the right, okay, you can see an option called open solution folder. Okay, if you click on this open solution folder, you can see these are the different folders created for your solution. Okay, corresponding to your solution, we have a agents directory, we have this defect profiles, we have application models, autosave, business flows, data sources, environment, HTML report configuration, and so on and so forth. Okay, these are the different directories automatically created. Okay, so that is the beauty, like the inbuilt framework we are using, by which we have all the folder structures automatically created once you create a solution. Okay, So at a time you can load only one solution in Ginger. Okay, so therefore it is recommended you use only one solution to work on all the target applications. Okay, so just a one solution for a one project. Okay, and you can add all the target applications like Windows, web, Unix, Java, everything you can add it in the same project. Okay, so if I click on this business flow, okay, here I can add multiple target applications. It's not only that one business flow can have only one target application. As we create the solution, we have to just select one, but later on once we have created the solution we can add multiple target applications. Okay, so if I go here and I click on edit, okay, I will see multiple target applications like Windows, Unix, Java, everything I will get over here. And then whatever I want to select, can select for this business flow. So we were at business flow tab. Now you can see I'm going to configurations tab. Okay, the third tab. And here you can see a sub window called target applications. So this is used to add multiple target application. So initially when we create the solution, we just selected web because there is only an option to select only one target application while we create a solution. But later on, as your project increases, as your project grows up, you can add multiple target application. Like now I want to add Java as well because there is a window based application. Okay, for in my project added, I want to integrate my web with my window based. So therefore I added Java as well here. Okay, now further I want to add the Unix as well. So for that we have mediation Unix platform. Okay, so I added Unix as well. I added, then I further go and I have a power builder application, nothing but a window based application. Okay, something called CSM. So these are the different target applications I have added. And once I added them, I can see, okay, I can see these target applications at the business flow level. Okay, so I'm going back to business flow, and suppose for this flow one, this end-to-end flow one, I want to use web as well as Unix for now, no window based. For this business flow, just Unix and web. I mean, I need to get some data from Unix and put it in the web. Let's suppose a small flow is there. Okay, so I have added two target applications here so that I can understand that this particular business flow, that is flow one, will have two target applications. Means each activity can be of either web or of Unix, but the whole business flow will have two types of activities. One will be the web type of activities, the another can be Unix type of activities. Clear? So in that way, we can prepare our business flows to run on different target applications. Okay, but the mapping of each activity will be one to one. I mean, each activity can be either of web application or can be of Unix application. Okay, you cannot have an activity which have actions of Unix as well as web. That mapping is one to one. But that flow, that business flow, can have multiple activities, and some of the activities can be of web, some of them can be of Unix in this example. Okay, so at the business flow level, we have details, we have activities, and we have variables. These are the sub tabs inside the business flow. Okay, I'm not going to do this again today. I will be going into it at some part later. The more interesting part I will be going through is this either configurations and the resources. The resources tab is very important tab. Okay, so in the resources you can see there is a shared repository, applications model, environments, global variables, data sources, documents, and plugins. Okay, these are the different tabs. So for now I will be configuring an environment here. Okay, so I will be just creating one dummy environment for me. For you, it may be a end-to-end one or environment one, two, three, whatever name you have in your project, the environment names. One may be of performance level P lab environment or something. So here you can create different environments over here. Okay. So let's suppose I'm creating a new environment. I will right click and click on add new environment. Either I can right click and click on add a new environment, or I can click on this plus symbol as well. Okay. So either ways you want. If you click on this plus, then also it will open the same. Okay. And here you can see some description is there, that environment are needed to storing data like URL, login credentials, DB Unix server, passwords, and all those things. Okay. So these are the details of each environment. If you click on next, you need to give a particular name of your environment. So it may be a sandbox environment, it may be any other environment for you. So let's suppose I name it as environment one. Okay. And I click on next. So now it's asking me that this particular environment, which contains how many of the target applications. So by default, all the target applications will be covered. So let it be, okay, let it cover all the target applications. So you can see this environment one is created. Okay, if you click on finish, you can see this is the one of the environment which is created. So I want you to quickly add an environment in your solution. You can just quickly switch to Ginger. You can go to the resources tab. Okay, go to the environment section and just try to create a new environment and check if you are able to create an environment successfully or not, because this is very important part, and we all know that we have to run the same number of scripts, same number of test cases, same number of business flows on different environments. Okay, so to reuse our same scripting part, same number of lines of code, we have to run on different environment, and therefore these environments are very much important for us. Okay, so I think we are good till this point. We have to switch to resources tab. We have to go to the environment section. We have to create a new environment, clicking on the plus symbol. And once we create the environment, okay, we can see this is the environment. If we expand this, okay, remember you need to expand this. You can see, okay, different application, I mean whatever target applications you have added, maybe it is only web for you, so you will get only one such child of this environment. But if you go to each one of them, let's suppose I will go to the web only, so you can see there are three different subtabs now. Okay, go slowly, just check my video, I mean just check my screen. What I have done, I have expanded this environment using this. You can see my cursor. Just need to expand this. You will see how many applications you have added. Let's suppose you have only web. So you need to click on that my web app. Okay. Once you click on it, you need to click on it. Okay. If you don't click on it, you will not able to see this thing in the right. Okay. So you need to click on it. You need to select it. You can see an orange color here. So you can see parameters, databases, and login users. Okay. So these are three tabs which are specific to environment. Okay. This is specific to environment. This is not specific to your test case or your business flow level. This is specific to your environment only. Okay. So what I will be doing is I will be adding a environment parameter. We called it as environment parameter. I will click on this plus symbol. You can see this plus symbol. If you click on this plus, it will automatically add you a param 0. Okay. I don't want to name it as a param 0. I will name it as a URL. Okay. Because this parameter will be named as URL. So I will name it as URL. Okay. It's saying me and giving me a pop-up that changing the environment variable name will cause rename this environment variable name in every business flow. Do you want to continue? Okay. That means these environment parameter will be changed for all the business flow wherever it is used. We have not used until it yet now, but if you make the changes later on, it will be reflecting for all the business flows. So yes, we want to do it. Okay. and now this URL should have a value. Okay, because this is a variable kind of environment parameter. So I will be providing this value over here, that it will be https://google.com. Okay, so something like a URL I passed. Okay, you can add www as well, but it works if you just provide the protocol https://google.com. Okay, so once that is done, I mean you added the URL as an environment parameter, we will click on this save button. Okay, so that our changes should be saved properly. Okay, we are going very slowly because you should be very doing it together. Okay, you need to add a parameter. Name of the parameter should be URL. Okay, you can give it any name, but for now we are putting it as a URL, and the value, we are storing its value. Okay, so once that is done, this is done. Okay, so what we will do, let's suppose today we created this environment one. Tomorrow our management decided that we have one more end-to-end environment. Okay, you got one more environment because there are lots of development activities going on. This is for development only. You need to clone this environment. You can duplicate it. No need to make any other things, need a new and fresh environment. You can duplicate a new already existing environment, and let me name it as environment 2. Okay, so for duplicating the environment, I just right click on the particular environment and I say I want to duplicate it. Okay, so you can see how easy it is. Now we don't need to click on plus, we don't need to provide a name, then click on next, 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 finish. To create a new environment, we can duplicate an environment, already existing environment, and I will suggest you please duplicate each time. Don't create a new fresh environment, because once you duplicate it, the existing parameters are automatically get added. If you duplicate, if you create a new environment, these parameter will not come. But if you duplicate an existing environment, all the environment parameters or database strings or login users will automatically come inside the next environment. We are just preparing a clone of the existing environment. Okay, so for this particular environment too, let's suppose I don't want it as a google.com, I want it as a facebook.com. So two environments, two URL. Environment 1 is of Google, environment 2 is of Facebook. So in this way, we can configure different environments. So if you duplicate it, let's suppose here you have 120 parameters later on. Okay, you have integrated API as well, so you have endpoint details of your environment, because the endpoint changes as you change the environment, the endpoint changes, your headers changes in the API, and all these details. So you will have, when you will be actually working on your project, I will guarantee you will have more than 50 parameters. And if you have a new environment created, you just duplicate the existing environment so that all the 50 parameters come by default. Otherwise, you need to add one by one all those 50 parameters if you create a new environment. Okay, because the name will same, the value will only change. So we will change the value one by one, but it is very hectic if you add each parameter again. Okay, so this is the part of what we have discussed. So I hope this till this point you are done. Okay, we have created two environments. The first environment will have a URL called google.com. The second environment has a URL facebook.com. Okay, good, perfect. Now we will go back to business flows because we have configured the environment correctly, right? We have already configured the environment, so we will be using the environment now. Okay, so let me create a new business flow. Okay, I will add a new business flow called, I will give it a proper name called, let's suppose, create customer. Okay, now this create customer is an end-to-end flow for me because I want to create a customer in this end-to-end logical business flow, which requires only web application for me. Currently I have multiple target applications, but it just requires the web application. So I will just select it, the web application, and my new business flow is created. Okay, so all of you switch to business flows tab, right click or click on this plus symbol to create a new business flow. Okay, you have to create a new business flow with me. Give it as in any logical end-to-end flow name. Okay, let's suppose for me the logical end-to-end flow is create customer. Okay, so I name it as create customer, so that I will be able to actually create the customer using this business flow. I want to automate the create customer flow. Okay, so these are the details section where actually you can add a name of the business flow. You can give any description like this end-to-end flow is to create customer. Okay, so that it is easily understand for any new person joining that this end-to-end flow is to create the customers. Okay, and you can add more details, we will see later on about these details, but the more important thing is to activities. Okay, because each end-to-end flow, each create customer flow will have different activities. So for example, this activity which I have currently, okay, this activity I will delete it. Okay, I don't want the existing activity, I will create a fresh activity for me. Okay, so what I will do, I can see I have 0 activities currently. I want to add one activity, the first activity. I click on this plus symbol. Okay, this is just a regular activity. We will later on see what is error handler, but this is just a regular activity where my activity name is login, because before creating the customer you need to log in, right? So therefore I'm just putting it as a login, the activity name. Okay, and I will click on finish because my target application is web only, so it will be web. Okay, and I will click on finish to create a new activity. So I created a business flow. Okay, that is my create customer. I create an activity inside the business flow. I named that activity as login. Okay, because what I need to do is I need to log in inside this in this. Okay, cool, perfect. So this login activity will have different actions: business flow, activities, then actions. So I will click on this automate tab. Okay, you can see in the right hand side top. Okay, there's automate button, so either you click on this or you can right click and go to automate. Either ways you can do and switch to automate tab. Okay, so this is my automate tab where I can see my actions. Here I can see my actions. These are my activities. Whatever activities I have, these are corresponding actions to that particular activity. So I will be adding one action. Okay, I will be adding one action. Let's suppose I add from here. You can see right hand side toggle button. Okay, you remember this slider pan which we discussed yesterday, that from here you can go to the action library. Okay, and you can go to legacy actions. Okay, tab, and the same action we have picked yesterday, go to URL action. You can take this, go to URL action. Okay, and you can click on no. Okay, from the pop-up, because it's saying it's a legacy action, you want to take it. Yes, you want to take it, and we want to keep the legacy action only. So either ways you can do it via legacy or a platform actions, but both of them will be able to launch the URL. Okay, then let's go to configure this go to URL action. Double click on it. Okay, and here you can see the value. Okay, the same thing, the value you want to provide for the URL. Okay, means the basically the URL you want to pass to launch the browser. Okay, so let's suppose I want to launch google.com. Okay, so I part it as I just hard coded the value that I want to navigate to google.com. Okay, so whatever URL you want to navigate to, you can pass that URL here, https, okay, colon slash slash google.com. Okay, so if you try to launch this one on Chrome, it will be launching it as we have done till this point yesterday as well. Okay, so I haven't done the run set, I haven't done the agent configuration. Let me quickly go to the agents tab and select my agent. Instead of Selenium IE, I want to switch to Selenium Chrome because I want to run it on a Chrome browser. So therefore I selected Chrome. Okay, I saved it. This is the agent configuration we have already seen yesterday. So once you configured it with Chrome, okay, and you click on either run activity or run action, this will basically execute your flow in Chrome. Okay, so in Chrome you will be able to launch this google.com. If you click on run activity, you will be able to launch this into this google.com into your browser, your Chrome browser, because we have selected Chrome as an agent. Okay, so once that is done, okay, we have just done what we have done till now. We have just added the go to URL action. Okay, we passed the URL, okay, the google.com URL, we have hard coded it. Now if you check the way I added the go to URL action, okay, I added from the legacy. Okay, so from here also I can add it, but it will give me a pop-up that this is deprecated and not recommended to be used anymore. Okay, you want to add the replacement action, that is the browser action for it. Okay, so which is the browser action? I will click on cancel. I will say the go to URL action is now deprecated and now become the browser action, which is in the platform action. Okay, so let's quickly see this as well, this browser action. Okay, we should have both idea of both the actions, either go to URL action, which is now a legacy action, which is now deprecated, and we can also see the browser action, in which you can see the operation type as go to URL. You want to do a static page and you want to pass the URL called https colon slash slash google.com. Okay, so the go to URL action is now deprecated and now converted into a new browser action. Okay, which in which we can select other things as well, like you want to open a new tab, new window, current tab, all this thing, and also the page object model we will discuss later. So these things you can configure into browser action. Previously what we were getting confused is it's a go to URL action, which is a legacy action, which only has one value of the URL. It doesn't have operation type or a static page or a new tab. You want to open into a new tab, or these functionalities were not there. This is now deprecated, and now this action is now modified to browser action, but both of them works fine for now. Okay, it doesn't matter if you have a go to URL action, it will not work, or it's a browser action, it will not work. Okay, so for now I will be making it as an inactive. So how you can make an action as inactive? Let's suppose I don't want to delete it, but I don't want it to run. Okay, so you can inactive some actions using this toggle button. You can see over here beside the delete, this is the toggle button to enable or disable a particular action. Okay, so this is now deprecated. I want to make it as inactive, and if I click on run activity now, only one action will run, that is my browser action, because that is set to active. Other than that, that go to URL action will not execute. Why? Because it is inactive. Okay, so you must be very clear how to inactive an action, how to active an action. Okay, if some actions are present, you don't want to run it, you can see this is skipped. Okay, the gray button says it is a skipped. You can see a tool tip saying it is a skipped. Okay, and further you can delete it. Don't delete from here because this will delete the selected actions. Okay, so if you have multiple actions, you can delete them as well from here, but this will delete only the particular action. Like this, you can delete it. Okay, so everyone please add, I just intentionally added the legacy action to showcase you that either you can use that go to URL legacy action as well, or you can add the new browser action as well. Okay, so everyone should be adding this new browser action, which has operation type, the URL source, URL, and the URL open in current browser. Okay, current window. Now this thing we have hard coded, but we have promised that we will be changing the environment to change the different URL. Okay, we created two environments, one with google.com, one with facebook.com. So we will select environment 1, so it should open google.com. If we select environment 2, it should open facebook.com. The same activity, the same action will perform differently if we change the environment. We change the environment, it will change the URL automatically. That part we are discussing currently. We will not hard code any such value called google.com in our code, in our action, so that if we change now, if we have hard coded it, either you select environment 1 or environment 2, it will open google.com because you have here hard coded google.com, right? We don't want to do that. How we want to do that? If we select environment 1, it should open google.com. If you select environment 2, it should open facebook.com. So how we can do it? In the operation settings section, I have went to operation settings. In this URL, I want to parameterize this URL. I will click on this expression editor. Okay, we called it as an expression editor, these three dots. Okay, I don't want to pass it like this either. I want to do it via environments, environment 1, applications, and inside the application I have it in my web app. Okay, so here in web app, just a minute, I will expand this like this. Okay, I have a global parameters and I have the URL. Okay, so if I click on the play button, it says you have opened facebook.com. Okay, so I will repeat myself, I will cancel this. Okay, just check once again, just see on my screen, focus on the screen. Instead of hard coding directly like this, I will open this three dots expression editor. I will remove this hard coding value. Okay, instead of that, what I will do, I will expand this environments. I will expand one of the environment. I will go to the applications. Inside that I have a web application. Okay, inside that I will go to the global parameters, and after that I will double click on this URL parameter. It will be parameterizing like this, and I will click on the play to check what value I'm getting. Why it's giving me facebook.com? It should have google.com, right? Because in the environment 1 I have stored as google.com. I didn't store it environment 1 as facebook. I put the value environment 2 as Facebook, but environment 1 I have Google. Why it's not showing google.com? Why it's showing facebook.com? You see here in the back, I have selected environment 2. These parameter is basically pointing to that particular environment you select. It doesn't matter you select from here or you select from environment 2. Okay, that is the beauty. That's what we want to do. These values should be evaluated based on the drop down. This drop down, you can see my cursor. So that's why it is giving me facebook.com. I will click on OK. Now I will change the environment 1. Okay, I will again open this expression editor. I will try to play this and see the beauty, google.com. Okay, so now you can try on your machines. You just parameterize this URL based on the environment, not on your hard coded value. So I hope till this point everything is clear. We created two environments. Okay, In the two environments, we pass different URLs. The requirement is we change the environment, the URL should change. Therefore, we are not hard coding any value inside this expression editor. Instead of that, we have passed the environment app name and the parameter, the URL. Okay. So now if I run it on environment one, okay, if I run it on environment one, it will execute as google.com. You can see it executed with open google.com. If I change to environment 2 and run the activity again, it will open the facebook.com. Okay, you can see it opens facebook.com. So no need to make any changes inside this action. Just change the environment and see the magic. One thing very important here, let's suppose I have one parameter as URL. Tomorrow I created another environment and I name it as URL1. Maybe it may be the case. Okay. If I change the name of the parameter, this logic will not work. Okay. So all the environment should have the same param name. You should not have one param name as URL in one of the environment, the another param name as different URL1. It will not
Mhm.
work for that. Okay. This parameter should be same name will be the same, only the value should change. If tomorrow someone comes and create a new environment and he wants the URL to be URL1, then our logic will fail, because here we are passing two things. One is the app name and the second thing is the URL, the parameter name. So now URL is changed to URL1, but now it will not work with environment 1. If I select environment 1 and try to evaluate this expression, okay, this will not be evaluated to anything, because now the URL is changed to URL1, and still we have in environment 1, still we have URL, not URL1. Okay, if I remove this URL1 and try to play this works fine. But if it is a URL1, then it will not work. Okay, but if I change to environment 2, this will give me the correct value as facebook.com. Why? Because in environment 2, the param name is correct. It is URL1, but no such concept of URL. So this will again give me blank value. So why this discrepancy happened? Because in the environment, one of the environment name has a parameter called URL1, the another one has URL. So always remember, if you want to use the same parameters, then only it will work for different environments. Clear? I intentionally warned you or had a disclaimer here, because most of the time we see doubts coming that my environment parameters are not working fine. We say why? They say we have different environment param name in different environment. No, that should not be the case. Okay, so the param name should be same, then only you will be able to get the value either in with environment 2 or environment 1. Cool, perfect till now. Okay, so this part is done, but we have not yet done the nomenclature. Okay, so you remember we discussed yesterday that we should have a proper framework design, we should have a proper name of the activities, actions, and everything. Okay, so for that purpose only we have an Excel, okay, where we have standardized the coding standards. So if you check out my screen, okay, these are the common coding standards we should follow. Why we should follow the same coding standard is, let's suppose you have a global variable. Okay, you name it global variable as something else, your teammate has made name of the global variable as something else. Now a new person joins and get confused that okay, Alili has made a global variable with this name, but Charlene has made a name variable with different name. So which one is correct? We should follow the same naming convention. We should not follow different naming conventions. Either it's a name of a variable, name of an activity, name of an action. So these standardized things, if you do in the initial part of your project development, it will be very good. Otherwise you will end up in a lot of maintenance activities later on. So from the scratch only, I will suggest you all should abide and should follow the same naming conventions. Okay. So here, if you can see my screen, okay, I have a folder path. Okay, I have a folder path. So I named it as inside the C. I have a location called ginger underscore automation. Let's suppose. So inside that I have that solution folder created. Okay. So this is the folder path. You can have it anything, but for now there are examples also, like there is a project name. Let's suppose your project name, it's on a which environment, it's a production environment, it's a development, whatever you can say, and underscore sanity. For sanity this project is there. Okay, so you can name it with anything. Okay, for example, you are working for some different client, you can have different project. So that project name should define that which project or which project it is pointing to. Okay, so this is the folder path. This is the solution name. Solution name can have a project name. This is just a suggestions. Okay, this is not such a constitution, or this is not such a hard coded rules that you have to abide to this only. But this can be one of the good way of giving the name of the solution of your business flow and everything. Okay, so solution name can have a project name, then project name underscore category. So either you can have something like sprint production sanity or ATT mediation, something like that. You can pass it like this. Okay. Then we have target application name. So target application name can be your CRM, your Unix, your web, whatever you want to give. The folder name. So there can be 3 folders inside the business flows. I mean, the business flow can then be divided into 3 ones. One is the development, which is already development in progress. One is the execution, that means the development is completed and we are now planning to execute those business flows, that will be kept in the execution folder. And the third one is the archive. Most of the time you will see, okay, in one of the release we have several end-to-end flow, but in the second release, let's suppose it is not there, it is after every alternative release, or it is currently not in scope now, it will come next year, something like that. So you can put it in archive directory, but be very judgmental while putting something in archive. Either you will be using it again, you have a reference to it or not, or you want to completely delete it. If you don't need anymore, please delete it, don't put it in archive. Archive directory is only responsible if you want to reuse it some part later again. Okay, or you want to get some reference from that particular business flow. Okay, so we can have 3 directories in business flow. One is the development, in which we have development in progress, we have not yet completed it. Execution, where the development is completed and we will be executing those flows. And the third is the archive directory, in which we can put some archive things. Okay, let me quickly create these directories over here. Okay, how we can create it? I will go to the business flows tab and right click on this business flow, and I will say I want to add a subfolder. Okay, I want to add this subfolder. One of the folder will be my development folder, where I will keep only those business flows or those end-to-end flows which I'm still working on currently. I can add another subfolder where I will have something called execution, where I will be executing my flows which are completely developed. Okay, and the third one is nothing but the archive. Okay, so in that I will put some archive stuffs. So now what I will do, I want to switch. Don't want to have this create customer outside, as it is still in development phase. I will right click and cut this one because I want to move it. I will cut this business flow and I will move paste it here. Okay. So now you can see my development folder. The create customer is now present because I tried drag and drop as well previously. So now I have two create customers here. One maybe I will delete it. Okay. So in that way you can cut, copy, paste any business flow from the UI only. Okay, you can create a duplicate, you can cut a business flow and paste it somewhere else, you can copy, you can paste whatever you want to do, you can do with that particular business flow level as well. And now I just have 3 folders. I will delete this one. This is just a business flow created by default. So it should look like this. Now it should it is much sorted, that whatever we are currently working on is in development folder. Once it is developed, we will move to the execution folder, because now it is developed completely and it is completely done for the execution. And whatever, if you want to put in something in archive, and definitely as Sohail mentioned, we can have a review directory as well. So there is no such constraint. You can define your framework as per your project, as per your use. Okay, perfect. Then we have these 3 folders completed. Then business flow for development folder, we can name the business, the development business flows as like something like this. Okay, like suppose there is a business flow called invoicing, where we will try to do some invoice flows. Okay, the customer is created and now we want to put an invoice for it. So the invoicing is the test case, is the business flow name. Okay, then we have business flow name for the execution is like maintenance underscore LB. Okay, so that particular business flow will have different activities. Just an example. So whatever we have completed, we can go for that via execution, but execution will have several maintenance as well. Okay, because once you have developed it and you are trying to execute it, it may be happen then in the next release the developer has made some changes and you want to do some maintenance over it. Okay, so you can make that as well as part of the execution folder. Then we have activity groups. This we will discuss it later, because certain set of activities can be marked in an activity group. Okay, that is a different entity but as a hidden entity, because we have just now we have checked that all the activities correspond to a business flow. A business flow will have all the activities, but there those activities can also be clubbed together to form a group, a activity group. Okay, so that is also we can do it. Then we have activity names. So each activity name should have different step names, I mean the step name for the test case. So like launching the application or providing the credentials or login, these kind of things will be our activity names. Then we have the action names like launch URL, click on a button, enter a value in text box. So all these values should be very much user defined, I mean user friendly. It should not be something like go to URL. Okay, because if you try to do in the initial phase only, then only it will be good. Otherwise it will have lots of maintenance because you have not added the actions properly. You won't you won't believe, but each activity can have 200 to 300 actions. Okay, and out of those 200 or 300 action, how will you understand what is which action is doing what, until and unless you add a proper description, a proper name of the action, so that now this launch application activity is definitely understandable. This launch URL is completely understandable that this action is launching the URL. Okay, then comes the important part, that is the global parameter, very important. Okay, global variables. So global variables always prefix with GBL, so that you can understand it's a global variable. Okay, similarly a business flow variable, that should be prefixes with BF underscore. Just a standard naming convention. If you want to make it something like else as part of your project, you can be the deciding factor. Okay, but for now this can be followed. Okay, that you can prefix the global variable with GBL, you can prefix the business flow variable BF, you can you can parameterize the environment variable with ENV. Okay, this prefix should be added. The activity variable, now we will discuss the scope of the variables. Okay, because a variable can only be used in a particular scope. If you have an activity variable, that means that particular the variable can be used inside that activity only. It cannot be used inside other activity. Okay, suppose you have created a variable called user ID for that activity variable, so that activity variable user ID will have a scope only to that particular activity called login. It will not be applicable to some other like create customer. Okay, or defining the customer ID. This activity will not cannot be access that particular activity variable, the scope of the variable. Okay, so if we go to create to understand it with a diagram, okay, how we can do it is, as you know that we have, mm, I will take it like this only. Okay, so this is, let's suppose this is my solution. So let's suppose this is my solution. The outer scope you can see is my solution. Okay, so at the solution level we have global variables. That means it can, these global variables, okay, can be accessible throughout my all of my business flows. So similarly, I have this business flow, I have other business flows as well. Okay, similar to this business flow. So this global variable will be accessible throughout all the business flows. Okay, whatever how many number of business flows I have, that business flow variable will be accessible throughout all the business flows. Okay, so it may be one business flow, two business flow, three business flow. Similarly, we can have n number of business flows. Okay, so for all of the business flows, this global variable will be having a scope. Then we have business flow variable. So that business flow variable will only be used inside this particular business flow only. If you want to use this business flow variable in some other business flow, it will not be applicable. Okay, then you need to use the global variable. So from one business flow, you want to pass a value to another business flow, you have to use global variable. You cannot use the same business flow variable throughout all the business flows. Then further, as you know, each business flow will have several activities, right? So this is, let's suppose my one activity, okay, can be having multiple activity. So if you have an activity variable, okay, then this activity variable can have a scope only to this particular activity only. It will not be accessible to some other activity of the same business flow or some other activity of another business flow. No, the activity variable will have a scope only to this particular activity, not even to different activities of the same business flow. Okay, so if I have another activity over here only, then I will not be able to use the activity variable of this activity into this activity. No, I have to either use the business flow variable or the global variable. Okay, so this is the scope of the variables. You cannot use one activity variable into another activity. That particular activity variable can be used only to this particular activity only. So these are the different variables. The environment parameters are nothing but the global variables only. Okay, because you can use it at the solution level. You can use it anywhere, but they are specific to environment. Clear, everyone? So these are the global variables, GBL underscore, which are used, defined at the global level. You can use it in any business flows. These are the business flow variables, where these business flow variable can be used inside different activities of the business flow, the same business flow. BF underscore. Then we have environment parameters, what we have just created now, env underscore URL, and the activity variables. That activity variables will have a scope only to that particular activity, not outside that activity, even in the same business flow. Okay, so these are the different scopes. Then we have document folder structure. So in the document folder structure, we can also have data files, scripts, templates, and output files. So yesterday we were discussing that can we do some scripting or can we do some coding and call it via Ginger? Yes, you can put those VBS files inside this scripts directory and use it later. Okay, so for that purpose we have scripts directory. Data files are nothing but the Excel files from which you want to put the data, get the data. Some templates. So most of the time while doing API testing, you have a template, you need to put some values inside the template and use it as a request to get the response. We will see in the API automation how we can do it. So you can parameterize some templates. Okay, you can create a template. Let's suppose to create a customer, you have a request. Okay, in the XML format or in the JSON format, the values you need to change it at runtime, like the addresses and everything, and then you need to pass that request to hit an endpoint to get the response. So for that purpose we have different data directories. Okay, nothing but we are using data driven approach, something like that. So that's why we are using this data folder structure. Then we have Excel file name. Okay, so the Excel file name should also be proper, like what exactly that Excel is going to do, because we will also see in the next sections, like how we can pass the data from Excel, how we can read the data, how we can write the data. So the data Excel name should have a proper name. Okay, we should pass it like this. Environment name, either it's an environment, whatever environment it is, maybe it's environment 1, environment 2, production environment. Okay, some red environment, some green environment, whatever you have in your project, you can name the environment as that. Database name, something like it is an which type of DB it is. Okay, the agent names. Okay, so the agent are nothing but the different browsers in case of web. So you can have it like this is for particular browser like Chrome, this is for web, this is for Edge, this is for Safari, this is for Firefox, and so on and so forth. The agent name should also be very proper. It should not be like web agent 1, web agent 2, not like that. How someone will understand what is web agent 1 if it's a Chrome or if it's a Selenium? Then the script file name, whatever script you are writing, let's suppose you are writing a particular script. Okay, as I said, you can write your own scripts as well. So that script name also be very justified, what exactly that script is doing. Okay, and the run set name, run set is nothing but a group of business flows. So you can have several business flows together in a run set. You want to run all the end-to-end flows together, you can create a run set, but that run set name should also be proper. Okay, like it's a daily sanity, that daily sanity will have 5 business flows, 5 end-to-end flows. Okay, so it should be proper name, it should not be run set 1, run set 2. How someone will understand what is run set 1? If you have a daily sanity name over there, it will easily understand that it's a daily sanity flow you need to run daily, or you need to schedule it at a particular moment, let's say 7 a.m in the morning. Okay, so this should be very clear. The coding standards, I will share with you if you want. Okay, um, so this is the generic nomenclature you should follow. Okay, coming back to our exercise. Okay, what we were doing currently is we were trying to create a customer. Let's suppose create customer is my end-to-end flow, which has different activities called, let's say, login, then providing the details and everything. So what I will be doing is I will be just using the variable. Okay, now I am currently in automate tab, I'm not in a business flow tab anymore. So 3 ways are there. Always remember there are 3 ways to switch from a business flow tab to automate tab. Is one is you can right click and click on automate, which Jubril has yesterday mentioned. You all have done, we were doing it. The second way is you can click on this automate button, which is in the right. You can select any business flow and click on the automate tab. Second way. The third way, you can double click on that particular business flow. Okay, so most of the time we are very used to double click. If you are using a mouse, then you can double click on the business flow, you will be automatically landed over to the automate tab. Okay, 3 ways of switching from business flow to automate tab. And the difference between business flow and automate tab is, on business flow tab you will not see any actions, you can just see the activities, right? You cannot see the actions, you cannot add any action. If you double click and move to the automate tab, then only you will be see the actions. You can add an action, whatever you want to do, you can do it on automate tab. Okay, so that is the difference between business flow tab and the automate tab. Cool, perfect. So now I will go to the variable section. Okay, and I will be trying to create a new variable. So you can click on this add new variable, and you can see there are a list of variables you can use. Okay, so there can be a date time variable, there can be a dynamic variable, value will be calculated during execution, then a list variable, number variable, password string, random number, random string, selection list, sequence variable, which sequentially increments, variable string, and variable timer. These kind of 11 variables were there. I remember the initial version of the Ginger where we just had three types of variables, either a number int variable, either a string variable, or a boolean variable. Okay, but now we have 11 types of variable. Okay, where you can have date time, where you can have dynamic variable, list variable, number variable, password string, random number. We can create these kind of variables. And the way I'm adding this variable, I'm not adding currently, I'm clicking on close. So this is basically, because you can see if I go back to the here, okay, here also I have a variable section. Okay, so these variable which I add here is my business flow variable. This is corresponding to business flow because these variables can be used in all the activities inside this business flow. But if I am inside that business flow, okay, and inside this login activity, okay, these variable is nothing but my activity variable. So if I click on plus symbol and I add a string variable, let's suppose I add a string variable and I name it the variable as, okay, so here if you go to the detail section, you can rename the variable you added. Let's suppose my, as my, I'm a customer name, it should be customer name. If I'm just putting a customer name, I will not be able to understand is it a, what is the scope of this variable. Either it's a global variable, business flow variable, activity variable. But if I put a ACT over as a prefix, okay, definitely I will be able to understand, okay, this is my activity variable. Okay, so always remember the nomenclature, the naming is very important because this customer name can be a global variable as well. Maybe that customer name you require for another business flow. Okay, and if you want to switch from one variable to another via business flow level, you need to create a global variable. For that we have resources tab and we have global variable sections. So if I add here as well, okay, let me add a string variable here, add variable, and I will name it as GBL underscore customer name. Then I'm pretty much sure that this is a global variable. This is not a activity variable or a business flow variable. However, this is my activity variable where the scope of this activity variable which is inside the scope of an activity. Okay, clear everyone? So at each scope you need to decide whether you want to have a business flow variable, whether you want to have an activity variable, similar to abstraction what we have in any programming language, like we have a protected variable, public variables, right? The same way you need to decide the scope of your variable. If you want to use it only inside an activity, you can go for activity variable. If you want to use that in different activities as well, like you get the data from Unix, you want to put it on web, then these will be two different activities. So you need to put a business flow variable. Okay, because each activity can have only one target application. So either web or Unix, maybe in our case. So that time you need to prepare a business flow variable. Okay, and let's suppose you are creating a run set. Okay, where we have different business flows. So you can go for global variables because the global variable can have a scope at the activity level, oh sorry, business flow levels.